Happy New Year and welcome to this special edition of RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman in tonight for Richard French. And on this program, we're going to look at the new year and what might be in store on the national and local level. Donald Trump will put his hand on the Bible January 20th and be sworn in. That's less than 3 weeks from today. A new president, a new administration, a brave new world. And in New York City, voters will head to the polls to vote for their mayor. But will they pick a new guy or stick with Bill de Blasio? This will also be the final year of Chris Christie's run as New Jersey governor. We'll look at who's running to replace him and whether his legacy, Christie's, will hurt his fellow Republicans. But we start at the top at the White House. In a minute, we'll look at President-elect Trump's foreign policy and his foreign policy team. But we'll start at home with Trump's domestic agenda, the people who will shape it, and also with possible confirmation fights. Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions is Trump's pick for Attorney General. He was rejected for the bench by a Republican-controlled Senate in 1986, and during that process, allegations of racial insensitivity became a huge issue. Then there's Trump's pick at Treasury, former Goldman Sachs executive Steve Mnuchin. Republicans could provide resistance because of Mnuchin's background in venture capital and not the wider bank-driven financial world. No one with a similar background, by the way, has ever been selected to run Treasury. And Trump pick for Secretary of State, ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson, already raising a lot of eyebrows thanks to his close ties to Russia. This picture we just saw, him receiving a Medal of Friendship from Russian President Vladimir Putin. Add that to Tillerson's lack of diplomatic experience, and we can see more than a few issues popping up on the horizon. So let's introduce our panel to prognosticate on 2017. We're joined by former Democratic New Jersey Congressman Steve Rothman. To his left, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. And on the other side of the table, all by his lonesome, Bill O'Reilly, former Republican strategist, who's now a member of the Conservative Party. And I want to start first with the 30,000-foot view of Donald Trump. A lot of people are saying there could be a lot of dysfunction, a lot of scandal, a lot of investigation. It will not be a very well-functioning government. That's one of the concerns. I'm wondering if you think this is going to be a standard presidential transition or if we're going to see something different from Donald Trump. Bill.
I think he's going to have a good first year. And you know I was not a Trump supporter during the election. I think he's going to have a good first year because people are looking for something different. He is different. I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there, whether it's corporate tax policy.
People are going to give him a lot of benefit of the doubt.
He's going to get a lot of benefit of the doubt. He's got two houses. He can move things through, as other presidents on both sides of the aisle have not been able to do. I think he has a good first year. The foreign policy, I'm very curious to see. I think that's the fear a lot of people have. I don't mind the Taiwan moves, as long as they're planned. But I think he has a first good year. That's my gut on it.
Congressman, you agree?
I hope that Bill is right, Andrew, and I'm not saying being pessimistic. Let's wait and see. He's assembled an interesting team, but we have real challenges. Homeland security is still huge. His desire to create jobs, which is a good desire, the need to increase wages, his efforts with regards to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare, education, research and development for diseases. These are big unknowns given the cabinet that he's selected.
But as you know, Congressman, the process dictates how well the policy can be implemented or even if it can get through Congress. And Dominic, what do you think we're in for a rocky first year, or do you think it's going to be a little bit of go along to get along from up on the Hill?
I don't anticipate it being rocky at all.
Really?
I agree with Bill. This is a showman. Part of the job of being president of the United States is being a showman with the political strength and power and the stick to back it up. And so, you know, you did a good job of pointing out in your lead, Andrew, all the different appointees. And frankly, each and every one of them could be a walking disaster in terms of a confirmation fight. But here's the problem. The Democrats can't take on, and the congressman can speak to this, the Democrats can't take on every battle. They've got to pick and choose. So some of them, Democrats are going to have to hold their nose and let them through. And Donald Trump knows that. To Bill's point, Mr. Showman, with the House and the Senate backing him up, is going to be able to push things through that Obama and others could not do.
Congressman?
Well, I'm going to respectfully take a different view. I think Donald Trump's initial motivations are to strike back quickly when he thinks he's being challenged on his policies. And the policies of the House Republicans under Speaker Ryan are much different than Donald Trump's. They're more severe, if you will, more to the right than Donald Trump on issues like tax reform, Social Security reform, Medicare reform, and the like. So Donald Trump, if he is to form, as he's been in the campaign, will respond mightily, strongly, and pound the table, unless folks like Kellyanne Conway and others can get him to be quiet and just go with the process. My money's not on that, however. Listen, I wish for the best, but I believe that there will be infighting between Trump, the Republicans in the House, and the Senate.
Toward that end, Bill, what's the one big policy push from President-elect Trump that you think he might have trouble with his fellow Republicans on the Hill?
With his foreign policy issues, I think.
We're going to get to foreign policy in a second. Let me bring you back domestically for a second. I mean, the infrastructure plan, do you think that's problematic? Medicare reform?
The infrastructure
Obamacare?
the infrastructure should be problematic because of the debt and the spending involved. I think they give it to him, and I think that gives a boost to the economy. I think they give it to him. I think they let him have that one. That's the one that I would watch.
And Dominic, Obamacare, gone?
That's a good question. Right now, all sides involved in the Republican Party are talking a good game. It's one thing, as the congressman can attest to threaten to do something. It's another to be forced to be on the record and actually do it. So it'll play well with their districts for the Republicans. We did away with Obamacare. Okay, so now what?
And Congressman, towards that end, a lot of the talk is repeal Obamacare immediately, wait until sometime in 2018 to actually come up with a replacement for it, keep it on the books, but it's, dead policy walking, so to speak. Does that play, or does that come back to bite the Trump administration?
Well, I wonder if it's possible, because if they try to repeal it immediately, are they going to leave the 20-some-odd million Americans who benefit from Obamacare hanging in the wind without coverage? Or are they going to say, well, we're repealing it in name only, we'll get back to you in 2018. Meanwhile, you can enjoy the benefits of Obamacare till 2018, till we can come up with our own plan. It's uncertain what they mean by repealing now and figuring it out 2 years from now.
All right, I want to switch to foreign policy. As we all know, the world is filled with hotspots. Europe is a constant terror target, and that's causing Trump to continue his rhetoric about Muslim bans and registries. China is always a concern, and more so after Trump took a call from the Taiwanese president, then questioned the whole one China policy that's been a part of U.S.-China relations for a decade. I was doing my Trump impression there. Then there's Russia. Russian leaders are reportedly thrilled with the team that Trump is assembling. Bill, you had indicated that you thought that Trump was going to get pushback from Republicans on some foreign policy aspects. Which ones?
A little on NATO specifically, but I think Trump. There's enough fear in the world right now. There are enough attacks out there in Europe. There's enough problems in Europe with immigration and other issues where I think Trump succeeds rhetorically. But if Trump is inconsistent, if he does foreign policy by Twitter and it's not well thought out, he will get pushback specifically from McCain, Lindsey Graham, and Paul Ryan. They're going to push back. They're not going to let him send mixed signals around the world if they're not thought out, if they're not clear.
And Dominic, the Trump team has to figure out what they're doing with Russia, right? I mean, especially with the investigations into the election hacking. Is this a danger spot for Trump if he's seen as being too cozy with Putin?
Of course, the American people are confused and don't know exactly what's going on as it relates to the new president and this big, fat, wet kiss to Putin. You mentioned investigations. I'm not saying that the Republican-led House or Senate will kick off some investigation into the president, but it has the potential because nobody can understand this relationship. Who at this table can explain this love fest except for the new president? By the way, Happy New Year. We're 2 days into the new year, so
Happy New Year.
So 2017, so we're off to a good start.
What I wonder in foreign policy, just to throw this out there, Congressman, is Trump doing with Russia what Kissinger and Nixon did with China? Is Trump building a friendship with Russia at the expense of the Chinese? Is he leveraging? Is that an overall thought that's out there?
That would seem to fit into his negotiators mold.
Yes, the problem with that is that Russia has the economy of Italy. It's a very small economy for a superpower. The real player in the game is China, who we have so much trade with. Now, Russia, of course, has all these thousands of nuclear weapons and a leader in Vladimir Putin who's aggressive and ambitious to conquer territory. I think, as Dominic was saying, it's really a mystery as to why Donald Trump has been so kind to Putin and ignored, as you say, Bill, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, and so many other Republicans offense taken at Vladimir Putin's interference or attempts to interfere in our election. There are going to be investigations, as you know, in the Senate about what happened, and well, let's see what happens, and we'll find out, Dominic, if there's more to be learned about why Donald Trump behaved as he did in silence to Putin's aggression against the U.S.
One of the biggest questions I have about the Trump administration is what happens if and when the United States is attacked in a terror attack. It's almost more a question of if, not when. But beyond that, what happens if a Trump property somewhere around the world is the target of a terror attack? What if the new Trump hotel in Istanbul or the new one that's going up in Malaysia winds up? Is that all of a sudden like an extension of the White House? There's never been anything quite like this before.
Not that I'm aware of, but although there is, perhaps one can recall allegations that George W. Bush went after Saddam Hussein because Saddam Hussein tried to kill his father, George H.W. Bush. But I think the answer, it's a great question, Andrew. I don't think we know about that. The answer, but hopefully folks like the prospective Defense Secretary General Mattis will tell President Trump then you cannot act on personal assets or personal ambition. This is about what's best for the United States.
I just don't see, Dominic, the way anything like that gets ratcheted down. I mean, you could argue that Trump's rhetoric has ratcheted up hatred against the United States, which then begets another attack. Which then
I agree with the congressman's point, but I think that, God forbid, in this new year of 2017, if there's a terrorist attack on American soil, it plays right into Trump's strength. Yeah. If it happens on American soil, there will be quick and swift military reaction. That is how he catapulted himself to the White House. Every time there was an incident around the world, polling showed that his numbers went up while Hillary's numbers were stagnant or went down. As far as if something happens at one of his hotels around the world, I agree with the congressman. His people will explain to him that it looks personal if you have young men and women going to military action, but you better believe, knowing this man very well, there will be action. The American people may not know it, but there will be a strong reaction.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, will he stay or will he go? No, not Dominic. Bill de Blasio. He's up for re-election this year. Dominic's favorite guy, but will voters keep the mayor in Gracie Mansion?